Welcome back, everybody, to 31 2000s horror movies for Halloween, where I'm counting down my favorite horror movies from the year 2000 to the year 2009. At number 28, we have a fun-filled, wacky horror movie, which is one of my favorite tributes slash spoofs of old Grindhouse movies, and that is Planet Terror.
I start now!
Here's the funny thing about Planet Terror. If I had made this list so long ago, if I had made that list when I was in my late teens going into my 20s, this would have been number one on the list. This would have been my favorite horror movies from the early 2000s. And this is a perfect example of how your taste can change as you get older. I still love Planet Terror, it just obviously isn't my number one now, because I saw so many more movies and I've developed more of an appreciation for other movies. But when I was younger, Planet Terror was right up my alley. Planet Terror is still right up my alley. It just has dropped significantly on the list, but it's still a great movie. So Planet Terror came out around 2007. It was a collaboration. It was part of this collaboration between Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino. They were doing a tribute to old Grindhouse movies and the Grindhouse in general. Robert Rodriguez directed Planet Terror, and Quentin Tarantino directed Death Proof, which is more of a car-sploitation action film. That movie's good too, but it's just not really a horror movie, so I didn't see any reason to put it on this list. It definitely was more of an action movie, but anyway. So, they made these two movies together, and they released them as a double feature in 2007. Now, the problem was, this was meant to be a tribute to old Grindhouse movies where they would show a set of trailers, then show one movie, then show another set of trailers, and then show the second movie. There were a lot of double features back in the 70s and 80s with Grindhouse cinema. So this was meant to be a tribute to that. And nobody got it. It was a very, the movie had, this double feature had a rough theater life because no one got it. No one got it. I think it could have been better advertised. I mean, they advertised it pretty good, but they could have advertised it better, and they could have made it clear when people bought their tickets, like, hey, these are two movies that you're going to. But what happened was, people would go, they would watch the first movie, which was Planet Terror, and then they leave. And then they found out that there was actually another movie in there. So I think the advertisement could have been better. I mean, they did advertise it as like, yeah, this is two movies, but I don't know, people just didn't understand the whole thing there, but anyway. But yeah, I mean, at the time when I was a teenager, going into my 20s, going into college and all that, community college for me, but anyway, it still counts. But anyway, I had always been a horror movie fan and a Grindhouse fan and all that, so I was watching all the horror movies I could, all the Grindhouses I could, all the Grindhouse movies I could, all exploitation movies I could, B movies I could, and stuff like that. So I worked at a movie theater when Planet Terror and Death Proof was playing, and I didn't get a chance to see it when it was in theaters. I was too busy at the time, and I just had no time. But when I finally was able to watch it, especially Planet Terror, I loved it. As someone who was into Grindhouse movies, this was, for me, a great tribute to Grindhouse cinema. Now that, at the time, it was my favorite tribute to Grindhouse cinema, but that has changed since. I lean more towards movies like Father's Day and Dear God No, because those truly catch the spirit of Grindhouse movies. They're independent films made with very little money, with not big-named actors in them, whereas these movies had big-named, the Quentin Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez double feature had big-name actors in them.
Where's the shit? The shit's right there. The deal is still good.
But focusing on Planet Terror, this is a Robert Rodriguez film. But Robert Rodriguez is known for doing good, independent, over-the-top movies. A lot of his movies are over-the-top. He did El Mariachi, he did Desperado, From Dusk Till Dawn. There is a charm to his movies that, you know, they can get a little wacky at times, but they can also be, like, really good, straightforward at times. But anyway, Planet Terror is a spoof / tribute to Grindhouse movies, especially zombie movies from the time. And the reason I loved it so much back then, and the reason I still love it now, is because of how wacky it was. Like, this movie truly goes nuts. It's a zombie movie, but not your traditional zombie movie. It opens with this group of people coming to this, fort or secured lab area, and they're trying to get this gas. The gas ends up getting released to the masses. A disease starts spreading, which eventually turns into a zombie breakout. It's violent, it's bloody, and it leads to some crazy action at the end. Now, the most notable part about the movie is Rose McGowan as Cherry Darling. She is a stripper in the movie. She's friends with this one character named Ray, who we soon find out is, like, the best at using guns. But anyway, now, in the movie, Rose McGowan, Cherry Darling, ends up losing one of her legs, and at the end of the movie, which is probably the most notorious thing about the movie, she ends up getting a machine gun leg. That's the thing about Planet Terror. It almost goes too far into its wacky, over-the-top nature, but it doesn't quite go that over the top. It manages to reel it in just enough so it's not too much. If it had gone further than that, it might have gotten a little too wacky. Not that I don't love wacky horror movies, but when it comes to wacky horror movies, it's good when they're wacky at the beginning and then wacky throughout. I love the character of Cherry Darling. She is one of the most underrated badass women in films, and what I love about her is she doesn't realize her true potential until the end of the film. You know, she starts off as a stripper, and I'm a pole dancer myself, so that might be why I feel this connection towards her, because it opens with this fantastic pole dance thing. I do wish there was a little more pole dancing in it, but anyway, that's just me. Anyway, as the movie goes on, she starts learning her full potential, starts learning that there's more to her than she thinks, and she becomes this ultimate badass at the end of the film, and it's a lot of fun. She has a great character arc. But yeah, Cherry Darling, one of the most underrated final girls, and one of the most underrated badasses in movies. But the movie just has so many fun, gory action scenes. It has a lot of it has some great practical effects and some digital effects mixed in. I was very impressed by how they were able to, do the effect to make it look like Cherry Darling has a machine gun leg. It looks very, very seamless. But all the side characters are fun, all the villains are fun. That's the most you can say about Planet Terror, is it's just fun. It's a lot of fun. It used to be my favorite horror movie from the 2000s. I still love it, but it has been overtaken by a lot of movies, which, again, I think shows how good the 2000s were. I may be a 70s and 80s kind of horror guy, but the 2000s had so many great horror movies, and for me, Planet Terror was one of them.